Hey everybody, welcome to the real United States. And, periodically over the course of the channel, we do an episode about a particular species of tree. And as many of you who follow us on a regular basis know, we have moved back to the state of Michigan. And so I thought it was time that we did one on Michigan's state tree, the eastern white pine. For those of you watching overseas, or other parts of the world, here in the United States, every state has an official thing, like a state tree, a state bird, a state fish, a state animal, a state stone, and so in Michigan we have the eastern white pine is our official state tree. The wolverine is our state animal, the red-breasted robin our state bird, the brown trout is our state fish, our state flower is the apple blossom, and our state stone, which we've talked about in previous episodes, is the Petoskey stone. Anyway, the white pine built a lot of America. It was these huge virgin stands of this beautiful tree, and they were, they're easy to cut. They had lots of very clear, straight lumber, and so it was a huge economic thing, mosquito, in the development of our country. Well, an unfortunate thing happened. A disease from Asia got transplanted to North America, and that is the white pine blister rust. And it attacks specifically the white pines, and it causes these big cankers, these big bulges on the sides of the trees, and eventually will kill them. Now, a lot of research has been done in the last 3 decades to try and find species that are resistant to that. And many years ago, I think it was 1994, I actually wrote a cover story for a magazine called Biology Digest, explaining the life cycle of the white pine blister rust. And it's got a 2-part life cycle. It spends half its life cycle attacking the white pine, but the other half of its life cycle, required obligate parasite, is currants. Little berry that grows wild in this part of the country. And here's the part I don't remember because I wrote this article so long ago. I haven't, but my understanding is that parasite, this fungus is what it is, lives half its life cycle specifically on one type of currant. Now, the currants and gooseberries are all members of a genus called ribes, and specifically the white pine blister rust lives on the black currant, the ribes nigrum, which makes a delightful jelly. To this day, if you look, you can find manufacturers that have black currant jelly. Now, there's also a red currant, the ribes rubrum, which also makes a very nice jelly. And these are still made to this day. However, in about 1911, the federal government was so concerned about the impact that this disease would have on the timber industry in the United States that it outlawed the commercial cultivation of currants. Well, it helped, I believe, and that remained in effect until I think 1966, when they finally washed their hands of it and said, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to turn over the jurisdiction to the individual states. Now, many of the states lifted the ban and said, hey, you want to grow rabies, knock yourself out. Some states did not. And I forget all the ones that I read recently. I think Vermont was one of them that still has a ban. Ohio, our neighbors to the south, still have a ban. And not surprisingly, there is a ban on the growth of currants in the state of Michigan, unless a few years ago they decided, okay, you can get a permit, and if you are permitted, then you can grow these for agricultural production. But to this day, in the state of Michigan, you have to have a permit to grow currants because of the fact that they can potentially have this impact on the white pine. Now, the white pine the stands of it have been decimated here in Michigan, and I was lucky to find this specimen in a relatively good location that we could get to in video. But it is still our state tree, regardless of the fact that commercially it has kind of been supplanted by many other species of pine trees. It is it's still our state tree, so it is in our interest to protect it. To what degree is possible or practicable. Anyway, it's a beautiful wood. I mean, I'm sure many of you have seen things made from white pine, or white pine moldings and things like that. It's still popular for moldings versus some of the other pines. It's a very, very light-colored, very soft wood, but it's I don't know, maybe I feel special about it because I grew up in this state, but it's beautiful. It's got a 5-needle follicle with these long needles, and they're quite soft. So that's one of the ways you can identify the white pine is by, the individual follicle of needles. You're going to count, and it should have 5 needles. So, but anyway, folks, that is why currants are often, and you don't even find them fresh anymore, but they're they're not as common today as what you might have seen in recipes in the 19th and the 18th century. They would have been a lot more common because the disease had not come over from Asia yet, and so these two plants could live side by side because this old fungus parasite, well, it wasn't there to go from one to the other and back and forth. It didn't have it wasn't here. But once it got here, it said, hey, it's got the 2 things I need to complete my life cycle. So anyway, folks, I don't know if that's weird or not, but I thought it was an interesting point. I mean, I grew up in an area, a small town, and there were wild currants, both red and black currants, still growing. This was in the 1960s. So you could go out and you could pick wild currants, and in that day, young fellows would go out and pick wild berries and eat them without worrying about being poisoned because you knew what you were looking at because you'd been trained, but nowadays maybe not so much. Anyway, that's my spiel today, folks, on the Pinus strobus, the white pine tree, the state tree of the state of Michigan. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope maybe you've learned something and found something new or surprising. If you've got questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. I love hearing from all of you. Really, just stop in and say hi. I'm just glad to hear from you. If you're new here, hey, welcome. And please consider clicking subscribe to come along for the adventure, because we got lots more to show you. And as always, folks, well, thank you for watching.